What's your we need to leave now moment? Was in a bar on the rooftop deck. Some dudes started getting rowdy near the entrance to the deck. I could see the escalation happening, and I told the gal I had been talking to follow me, and we went down the back stairs through the kitchen. Two things happened that night. First, one of the guys got stabbed in the head, like through the top of his skull. Super glad I got out of there when I did. Second, I got laid that night. She thought it was super cool to escape through the kitchen. Holy sh! Did someone die? I was told the guy who got stabbed actually made it. I never knew him, and I didn't ever find out any more info than that. I went to college in downtown Chicago and took the L tracks home after an evening class. It wasn't too late, maybe like 8 p. This one time there were only a few other people in the train car I was in, and so everyone was spread out. At one of the stops this shady looking guy gets on, and even though there were plenty of empty rows where he could sit alone, he goes and sits next to a woman. Not 2 seconds later, that woman gets up and immediately goes to another car. This same guy then gets up from the seat, turns around towards where I'm sitting. Mind you, like the woman, I was sitting near the window and had my backpack on the seat next to me. He sits down on my backpack without saying a word. Shocked, I yank my bag from under him, and that's when I see that he has this weird silver finger cover thing over his entire pointer finger. This ornament finger thing looked heavy, and it had intricate carved dragons all over it, except at the end, where a nail would be, there was like a long claw-like dagger. I look at this guy, and he is just staring straight ahead. Didn't even flinch with me pulling my backpack, plus he reeked of alcohol. I then noticed this other guy who was seated across from us, and was staring right at me mouthing, "Get up now." So that's what I did. I used my backpack to kind of buffer me from him, and pushed myself out of the aisle as the train was approaching the last stop. I left that car, and had so much adrenaline pulsing, that I kept going through other train cars, to get as much distance as I could, until the train came to a stop and I ran the frick over there, and down the stairs, where I alerted a CTA employee about him. It was really scary, and after that my boyfriend got me a taser and pepper spray that I would literally hold in my hands so that everyone could see when I rode the trains at that hour. I felt that get out now as soon as he sat next to you. My heart was racing reading this. Glad you got away from him. Thank you. Me too. I also pray he was just some sick wasted weirdo trying to scare people and never actually hurt someone. I was in Camden, NJ 1991, hanging with some people I was familiar with, and my friend TT and I were just talking, hanging out on the block, while the older kids were selling to passing cars. For a couple weeks I had been trying to convince T to stop hanging on these couple blocks. There was too much turf crap in Camden. Always someone or other rolling through slow or staring from the end of the block. Gang crap. Anyway, one evening I see this car go by 3 times. I knew that was it. I could feel it in my gut. I saw them turn in again and then start to go a little faster. Grabbed T and got low behind a burned out car and made myself the smallest target. 3 dealers died that night. I'm pretty sure 1 or 2 of the guys in the car died too. It was a freaking mess. I booked it to the bus depot and stayed out of Camden for a couple months. T was fine that night, but died a couple months later in other gang crap. Freaking gang crap. There's your first problem. I'm from Trenton, basically Camden light. Haha, Trenton has its own reputation for sure. Was in Paris November 2015 on vacation. My girlfriend and I were in a small pub having a drink before heading back to the hotel. Most of the pub was watching the soccer game, and we weren't really paying attention. All of a sudden we noticed the whole pub went quiet, and we saw the news on the TV about the terror attacks. The bartender could speak English and said to us, "You tourists, you need to get back to your hotel now." We thankfully were close enough to run back, and we basically hid there with the blinds closed and lights off, watching it happen on TV, terrified because we had no idea how far the attacks were going to spread. The scariest part is that I had briefly considered getting tickets to the EODM concert that night. Had we gone, who knows what could have happened. Damn, me and my friends really wanted to go to Paris. We planned to go either in April or November. We had a vote and we voted April. I don't want to think about what would have happened if we went in November. I took a field ecology class where we went to a semi-remote area to do some field work. It was approaching midnight, and I was in a car with my instructor and 2 classmates, and we were heading down the highway back to our base camp. At some point, my instructor realized she took a wrong turn, so we kept driving, waiting for an exit to show up. We spotted this little gravel road to the right, still on the highway, weird but okay, and thought it would lead to a street or exit, so we turned into it and entered this super shady, forested area. Rather than taking us to a street, the road took us to a broken down wooden cabin, with broken but boarded up windows and bunch of white vans and cars, all parked in really odd angles. The scene was way too weird to process coherently. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end and the voice in my head screamed, "Get out." We didn't see anyone, but there was definitely something, or someone, present, watching us. I said out loud, "Is anyone else getting the feeling that we need to get the F/CK out of here?" My instructor and classmates all went yep. I've never seen anyone make a U-turn faster than my instructor did that night. Field biologist here. I was a consultant for a company and helping with a survey of an endangered species out in this rural area where a major highway was set to begin construction. We were doing the survey from about 7:10 at night. The area was way out in the boonies. The nearest police station was probably a good 40 minutes away. We were informed by the local police that there was one particular sampling location we would hit that was right next to a known meth lab. When we went to that location, it did look like a stereotypical meth lab. Several broken down vehicles, random junk everywhere, couple mangy dogs wandering around a broken down mobile home. At one of the points near this location we heard a dog barking, and then someone started walking through the woods with the most powerful flashlight I've ever seen shining directly at us. We didn't take the data we needed at that location. I made the executive decision to book it out of there, lol. Holy crap, that's crazy, lol. As an ecology undergrad, it's honestly nice, but also kinda concerning to know other folks have had some weird field experiences. Would you say it comes with the territory? A few instances from mountain climbing / backpacking. On the summit of Mount Adams, a 12,500 foot dormant volcano in Washington state, the wind suddenly picked up very strongly as we were packing up lunch and about to descend. We looked up and saw what I can only describe as 2 horizontal tornadoes sucking up loose snow from around us. We basically ran / fell down the 50-foot snow slope from the small summit to a larger plateau below as the vortices descended to where we were just a minute before. We booked it across the plateau to the main slope and then did a glissade, controlled sitting descent using an ice axe for rudder / brake, down a 3,000 vertical foot snowfield in 15 minutes. It took us 4 hours to climb up the same snowfield on a 13,000 plus foot ridge in the Sierra Nevada mountains in Sequoia National Park. Light puffy clouds in the morning quickly built up to thunderstorms as we crossed the pass to get to the camp for that night. We could actually feel and smell the static electricity in the air as lightning began to strike. Again, descended as fast as humanly possible. I live near the Sierras, and the storms there are no joke. They are not as big as ones out in the eastern US, but the winds can be very strong. Hail can mess you up out there, flooding is a huge risk, and lightning strikes plus fires can get very bad. The finish line of the Boston bombing. We were standing on the opposite side of the street in between the bombs. Thought the first bomb was just a smoke cannon or something similar. When the second one went off, we realized what was happening and ran down a side alley. We tried to hide in the doorway of a hotel's back entrance, and the people already hiding there wouldn't let us in. They physically pushed us out of the doorway and told us to find somewhere else to go. Practically spat at us to frick off. We had no idea what direction was safe to go, but thankfully we were okay. The initial 15 minutes after it happened were terrifying, but we just keep moving to gtfo dodge as soon as we could. Out of curiosity, do you have any animosity towards the people in the door? No, I don't, but they did act like assholes. People go into survival mode, I guess, so I don't hold it against them. Oh yeah, the time when me and my friends were in an abandoned farmhouse, and then there random unexplainable screams coming from the basement. Fun times. Foxes maybe? Their noises and mating calls can apparently sound very similar to human screams. True, once heard what I thought was screaming, only to look out my window and see a fox right in the middle of the street making the noise lol. Was in Chicago, got off a train station and a homeless guy came up to myself and my friend. He said he was really depressed, wanted to kill himself, and wanted a hug. Had no idea what to do, but then he put his arms around our necks and put us all into a hug. I couldn't get out of the hug. I tried to leave. His arm was wrapped around my neck tightly. Eventually he asked us to come with him to the shops. I asked him if he wanted us to buy him something. He said no, he had the money. We walk with him towards the shop, so uncomfortable. He had a duffel bag and said he'd pay, but he just wanted us to go with him to the shop. Once we were outside the shop, I told my friend let's get out of here. He started going into his bag and that's when we legged it. I had no idea what he was going to grab. He could have been harmless, but the fact that we couldn't leave his hug earlier remains with me. I can still feel his arm around my neck. Did you guys report him to the authorities? No, honestly we were just so scared we got out of there. We weren't from the area at all. Tornado sirens and the roaring sound of a train approaching. I didn't live near a train. r/twas intense horror. Holy crap. What else happened? Me and my girl grabbed our 2 cats and ran into the apartment's basement. Luckily the only damage was blown out windows. The tornado turned directions a few blocks away. I can think of many times at parties/clubs/events/etc where I felt the stare of a guy/group or guys and felt uncomfortable and that gut feeling of being uneasy and scared. Where I've been, like we need to leave now. Not something uncommon when you are a girl. Holy crap yes. I got this at a bus stop once. The guy was sitting on his front porch across from the stop, just staring at me. At some point he actually stood up and started walking towards me right before my bus arrived. Nick of time. This very scary. Did he follow you at your home? Any updates after this incident? Stopped at a Burger King for lunch with a couple friends when the cops showed up because someone threatened to shoot someone. The supposed gunman left right before we walked in. We left the Burger King, and just as we crossed the street, we heard gunshots coming from the place and ran for a couple blocks. Oh crap. Did you know what happened after that? Me and a girlfriend were making out in my car somewhere in downtown. Some empty parking lot at night. I happened to look out the window and see a guy walking up to us in the dark from a distance. I decided not to wait around. As soon as I started the car, he started running towards us. I took off as fast as I could. Did he have a hook for a hand? #slinging slasher. That time I followed a stripper back to her trailer park at invitation, and her friends became convinced I was an undercover federal agent because I use big words. Were her friends threatening violence? That's classified. Driving a friend home after a group dinner at Buffalo Wild Wings. We pull into friend's apartment, and I notice a car following us. They pull in the apartment and park beside us. We sit a couple of minutes just talking when I realize the guy in the next car, who is alone, still hasn't got out. I told my friend something didn't feel right. We back out and the car follows us. I knew a bunch of back road and hit those quick enough to lose the guy. When he was gone I took my friend back home and watched her go in safely. I was told by someone else that had that happen to them that the best place to go is to pull into a police/fire station. If necessary, lay on the horn. Yep, my sister did that once when she was a teenager. Some guy claimed she sideswiped his car and went off and followed her blaring on the horn like an asshole. He followed her a mile and a half to the police station, got out of his car and started yelling, which brought the desk duty cop out. He calmed the guy down and told him to leave. The best part? The guy's car had not been damaged in any way and the cop later said he didn't think there was any kind of contact at all. I went to a friend's house with my mom to take them some old clothes. The doors were unlocked. Cars were there, jackets on the couch, phones on the coffee table, but nobody was there. My insides were screaming that this was bad and we had to leave. It turned out they had gone somewhere with another person and everyone thought I was crazy. The way they left the house was just super unsettling. I like that the story's end is all good. Most of stories here are from people who were right to leave a sap before something real bad, but this is nice to see another outcome. Get my upvote. To see a friend out of town and had never been to her place. Had another friend who said he knew which app it was, so we followed him up. We get to our friend's place and walk in. I immediately notice the decor isn't matching up. My friend, being in her 20s at the time, wouldn't have a dusty place with obviously old furniture, and then it hit me. The smell. It punched my senses and I immediately said it smelled like a decomposing body. No, I had not smelled one before, but the smell was so sour and bad that was just my best verbal description. My friends noticed the smell and agree we FD'd up and went into the wrong apartment. Our friend laughed when we got to her apartment. A week later she messaged me. They were removing the body of a person who died and was smelling up the building a few floors down, the exact one we wandered into. So, you walked into an unlocked apartment and smelled what you thought was a decomposing corpse, then just left without calling the police or even the building manager or anything? We were young and somewhat panicked by being in a stranger's app accidentally. Looking back and knowing now, I would have definition let someone know. I didn't honestly think someone was actually dead. We just assumed it was a really bad smell, since we had never encountered anything close to that.